You wake in the dead of night, haunted by a version of yourself you'd never dare show the world. The jealous colleague, the resentful partner, the anxious dreamer who doubts every step. Society calls these impulses your dark side, a flaw to be fixed or a sin to be purged. But what if this shadow isn't a defect, but a cipher? Carl Jung, the pioneering psychologist who dared to explore the uncharted depths of the psyche, proposed that within our most disowned traits, rage, greed, fear, even selfishness, lies a coded message pointing to our life's purpose. The very qualities we exile to the darkness, he argued, are not obstacles to our destiny, but its signposts. To understand why, we must venture into Jung's vision of the human soul, where the shadow is not a monster under the bed, but a gatekeeper to wholeness. Jung's concept of the shadow, the repository of everything we deny, suppress, or deem unacceptable about ourselves, is often misunderstood as a villain. In truth, it is the psyche's lost and found. When a child is scolded for crying, "Stop being weak," a teenager shamed for ambition, "Who do you think you are?" Or an adult punished for desire, "Good people don't want that." These rejected fragments don't vanish. They retreat into the shadow, forming an unconscious undercurrent that shapes our lives in ways we rarely acknowledge. A man who prides himself on altruism might secretly resent never prioritizing his own needs, leading to burnout. A woman who stifles her assertiveness to seem likable might grow bitter, sabotaging relationships. The shadow doesn't just store our darkness. It hoards the disowned gold of our unlived potential. Herein lies Jung's radical insight. The shadow is a mirror of our unlived life. The traits we reject, often labeled negative, are frequently the raw materials of our purpose, distorted by shame. Consider envy. While petty jealousy corrodes, envy's fire can reveal unmet aspirations. The colleague you resent for their boldness? That envy whispers you too could dare. The rage you suppress when overlooked? It might be a protest against playing small. Even greed, when examined, can signal a hunger for experiences or creativity starved by self-denial. Jung believed that until we confront these shadow elements, they govern us unconsciously, manifesting as self-sabotage, projection onto others, or a haunting sense of emptiness. The artist who abandons their craft to pursue a sensible career, only to drown in midlife malaise, isn't suffering a lack of success. They're mourning the unlived artist within. The path to purpose, then, isn't about transcending the shadow, but dialoguing with it. Jung called this process shadow work, a descent into the psyche's basement to retrieve exiled parts of the self. This isn't intellectual navel-gazing. It's a visceral, often uncomfortable reckoning. Imagine a CEO plagued by imposter syndrome, convinced she's a fraud. Through shadow work, she might uncover a buried belief instilled in childhood. Ambition is dangerous for women. Her dark side, the fear of being too much, isn't a flaw, but a relic of cultural conditioning. By integrating this shadow, her confidence isn't manufactured through affirmations, but unearthed from the truth of her suppressed power. Similarly, a people-pleaser who digs into their resentment might find a boundaryless self begging to be honored. The shadow, in this light, is a protest against inauthenticity, a scream from the soul to live fully. Jung's theory of individuation, the lifelong journey towards psychological wholeness, hinges on this integration. Individuation isn't about becoming perfect, but becoming complete. It's the difference between the persona, the mask we show the world, and the self, the totality of who we are. When we deny our shadow, we fragment ourselves, chasing external validation to fill the void. The perfectionist, the workaholic, the martyr, all are personas overcompensating for disowned shadows. But when we befriend the shadow, we stop outsourcing our worth. A recovering perfectionist might discover their rigidity stems not from high standards, but a terror of being judged. By embracing their vulnerability, the shadow's weakness, they unlock the courage to create imperfectly, aligning with a purpose rooted in authenticity rather than approval. This alchemy of shadow and purpose is evident in the lives of those who've turned their flaws into fuel. Frida Kahlo transformed physical pain and emotional turbulence into art that redefined beauty. Nelson Mandela channeled the rage of oppression into a vision of reconciliation. Jung himself struggled with a volatile temper and bouts of melancholy, yet these shadows became the bedrock of his empathy for human complexity. Their purpose wasn't despite their darkness, but because of it. The shadow, when integrated, becomes a compass, not toward some saintly ideal, but toward the unique contribution only our whole self can offer. Why, then, do we resist this work? Because the shadow forces us to confront what Jung termed the collective unconscious, the inherited myths and archetypes that shape societal norms. Cultures often pathologize shadow traits. Ambition becomes selfishness in women, sensitivity weakness in men, doubt failure in leaders. To embrace the shadow is to defy these scripts, risking rejection. Yet Jung warns that ignoring the shadow only empowers it. A leader who denies their authoritarian streak might preach collaboration while secretly micromanaging. A parent who disowns their inner child might harshly judge their son's playfulness. The shadow always exacts a toll, whether through inner turmoil or outward hypocrisy. The reward for courage, however, is profound. Shadow work reveals that our purpose isn't a predetermined destiny, but a dynamic dance between light and dark. The teacher who once stifled her curiosity, "Who am I to question?" becomes a revolutionary educator by reclaiming her rebellious streak. The engineer who buried his artistic side, "Art isn't practical," innovates by merging logic with creativity. Even destructive traits, when acknowledged, lose their sting. The control freak discovers their need for order stems from a childhood chaos they can now heal, redirecting that energy into organizing communities. Jung's wisdom culminates in a paradox. The key to our highest potential lies in the depths we fear to plumb. The shadow isn't a curse, but a covenant, an invitation to stop warring with ourselves and begin the sacred task of soul-making. Your rage might be unexpressed justice. Your selfishness might be unmet self-love. Your anxiety might be untapped intuition. By listening to the shadow's whispers, we don't just heal. We awaken to the life we're meant to lead. As Jung wrote, "No tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." The dark side isn't the enemy. It's the unlit path to your becoming. Walk it, and you'll find that what you feared was a monster was actually a mentor, holding the map to your destiny all along.